Good day. To all the viewers and readers of DNA, welcome to another episode of interviews with heads of missions. Today we have with us the High Commissioner of Malaysia. From the breathtaking beaches of Langkawi to the lush rainforests of Borneo, Malaysia offers a plethora of picturesque landscapes. Its capital is cosmopolitan Kuala Lumpur, from which you can take scenic trips to Penang, Sarawak, and Malacca. Places I've been to many times because I am, after all, half Malaysian. So it is with great pride that we welcome His Excellency Dato Azfar Mohamad Mustafar, High Commissioner of Malaysia to Singapore.
Thank you, Dato, for having me today.
Welcome to the show. Now, Excellency, kindly share with us the most memorable personal and professional experiences of your diplomatic tour of Singapore.
I was posted to Singapore. I arrived in Singapore on 29th of July 2021 during pandemic, COVID-19. So you know how difficult it was during COVID-19. But I think one of the most memorable professional experience I had is when I presented my credential to the President Halimah, where I have to wear the mask. If you go down at my office, you see a list of 18 High Commissioner, so only one with mask. I thought that is quite interesting, and also because I was the first group that presented credential in person. So before me, because of COVID, all of them doing the presidential credential virtually to the President. So I'm quite lucky. When I arrived, situation has improved in Singapore, so I was able to present in person, but of course with masks and so on and so forth. Other than that, I think Singapore and Malaysia, we are quite similar societies and so on and so forth. But one thing that I find it quite memorable in Singapore is the hawker center. So I've been trying to, go to all these hawker centers, but I probably have visited half of it. So I plan to complete this list before I end my tour in Singapore.
Well, we should go for a nice lunch after this at your favorite hawker centers. Now, High Commissioner, how do you describe the development of the bilateral relations between Singapore and Malaysia since the opening of the first diplomatic mission here?
Historically, we are one before, right? But we separated in 1965 in August. So in September, we established our mission here. So we have been operating in Singapore since 1965. So we are one of the first country that opened mission here. Since we have historical relation has been good, but has been grown from strength to strength over the years. So one of my mission here is to further strengthen that relations and explore new opportunities. Probably in emerging sectors such as digital and because the people tie has also been strong. You mentioned that you have Malaysian, so there are many Malaysian, coming here, working here, eventually married Singaporean, but maintain their close family members in Malaysia. So people to people relation has been quite strong as well. We have many Malaysian workers here. So to sum up, I think we have very deep-rooted, robust relationship, and I think this relationship will continue to grow in the future.
Sir, as the head of mission for Malaysia to Singapore, as part of your responsibilities, you need to promote Malaysia as a travel destination. So what places in your country, or should I say our country, could offer a Singaporean and expatriates wishing to visit Malaysia some insight into the heart and soul of your nation? Food, right?
Of course, food is always a good starting point. But to talk about tourism, Malaysia has always been one of the favorite destinations for many people. And over the years, we have always received a good number of tourists from Singapore. Taking, for example, 2019, before COVID, before the pandemic, we received about 27 million visitors or tourists to Malaysia, and 10 million of that are Singaporean.
Wow.
Singaporeans go to Malaysia for not just for tourism activities, but also for grocery shopping, right? But the way that we calculate tourists is that whoever that spend 24 hours in Malaysia, we consider as a tourist. Like they go to buy groceries over the weekend, that considered tourist as well. But if we want to talk about places that we would like to promote, I mean, depends on the on that particular tourist interest as well. If they want to do, if they have limited time, if they want to do the pictures, they want to go to the forest, they want to do the mountain, I will suggest them go to Kota Kinabalu, because everything are all in the vicinity. So they can go to the beaches, they can go to the rainforest, they can go to the mountain within 1 or 2 hours driving from Phuket. But if they would like to spend only beaches, then Langkawi or East Coast of Malaysia, Pahang, Terengganu will be a good bet to do this. And for those who love to spend money gambling, they can go to Genting Highland, for example. I mean, Malaysia is similar to Singapore in the sense that we are multi-racial, multicultural, multi-religious. So there are a lot to do that as well. I mean, taking into account the recent trend in tourism, for example, people would like to do this, what they call experiential tourism. Then we have that option as well. For example, in Sarawak, where they can immerse themselves in the local communities, the Ibans, the Dayak, and so on and so forth. One interesting thing that are now being developed in Sabah is what they call dark tourism. So I think not many people heard about this, but we know about spooky places, haunted mansion, ghosts. So this is what they call dark tourism.
DARK.
DARK, dark tourism. So this has been quite a new phenomenon, mainly in Sabah. So what we also have a few spots like in Perak, where they go to Kelly mansion, where it was called haunted mansion. So I think the possibilities are endless. It depends on what you want to do. We offer everything for everybody.
So speaking about the soul of a nation, I think Malaysians love food as much as Singaporeans, without doubt, maybe even more. Are there favorite Malaysian dishes that you prefer, and probably also available in Singapore, but I would think you would say it's better in Malaysia?
Yeah.
So what are some of these dishes, and if there's anything that you can recommend to those who've never tried it, what are some of the best cuisine that you can find in Malaysia?
I think, of course, the starting point, which many people can try and indulge in, will be satay. I mean, the thing that similar to kebab, but we call it satay. I mean, it can be chicken, it can be beef, it can be mutton, and so on and so forth. Other than that, I will suggest mi rebus or mi soto. We both have in Singapore and Malaysia, but I think to suit the local palate, then they temper a bit with the spiciness and so on and so forth. It's not authentic. The best still will be in Malaysia. But other than that, there are other food that quite popular in Malaysia, but not really, in Singapore. For example, from Pahang, I'm from Pahang. So in Pahang, we will have a dish what we call patin tempoyak. It's a river fish cooked with durian paste. Durian paste. So it's quite interesting, but I've not seen it in Singapore. Probably people here are not really exposed to it. But if you have to go to KL, you have to go to Malaysia and try it. But other than that, I think as I mentioned, whatever that we have in Malaysia, mostly we have in Singapore, logically speaking, because people of both sides are connected in one way or the others. But as I mentioned, the way that I understand it, when I eat this food in Singapore, as I mentioned earlier, they have tempered a little bit with the ingredient, especially the spiciness and I mean local dish that is not very well known in Malaysia will be mee siam.
Oh, you heard it?
No, not in Malaysia. Mee siam. We call it a different name, but mee siam as we know it with the a bit reddish gravy, so it's not easily available in Malaysia. So I thought that is interesting. Of course, the other thing will be soup tulang merah. So it's not very famous in Malaysia because we normally take the clear soup, But every Malaysian that comes to Malaysia will always try soup tulang merah. So I think that will be 2 or 3, food that you can get in Singapore, but not really readily available in Malaysia.
Your Excellency, you're making me hungry. Now, Singapore and Malaysia both embrace cultural diversity and have that among the many things they have in common. Now, how would you define the Malay cultural identity within an ever more intercultural and global world? How is this unique identity of Malaysia expressed in today's society?
I mean, as you mentioned, Malaysia and Singapore are both multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, right? But for Malaysia, underlying it, the majority race will be Malay. So of course, most of our culture are defined by the Malays. But if you look into history, the whole archipelago, actually, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, and other part of the South Asia will be predominantly, ruled by Malay Sultanate and so on and so forth. So many of these countries have a roots in Malay society. I mean, even in Singapore, originally some people call it the Malay land, right? But of course, with development, with migrant coming from various places in the world and so on and so forth, you have a multi-ethnic society in South Asia currently. So for Malays in Malaysia, for example, we are the majority ethnic in Malaysia, but that does not mean that we our culture are quite distinct, because are not distinct in the sense that we have also been occupied by Portuguese, by Dutch, by English. So if you talk about Malay nowadays, we have our own characteristic, but at the same time they are elements of other civilization into that ethnic as well, into the Malay group as well. But at core of it, in Malaysia, most Malay will be Muslim. That will be one characteristic. Other than that, most Malay will be more comfortable, living in a situation which is quite laid back, not very fast paced and so on. So I think that characteristic still remain with most Malay in Peninsula, because I think in Malaysia, when we talk about Malay, mostly concentrated in the Peninsula, not so much in Sabah and Sarawak, because Sabah and Sarawak are predominantly are their own indigenous people and smaller ethnic like Iban, Kadazan, Bidayu and so on and so forth. So if I can define Malay root as in one word, probably amalgamation of diverse civilization has been putting together as a melting pot, something like that.
But it also means that you are ever receptive of these cultures. You do not reject them. Yeah. For anyone wishing to engage commercially with your country, is there a chamber of commerce or trade office that one can contact here? And please also mention other platforms where one could find information related to doing business and trade with Malaysia.
I mean, Singapore has always been one of our important source of investment. So many companies, Singapore companies or multinational companies, headquarters in Singapore, investing in Malaysia. So we have many platforms for businesses that want to engage with us. I mean, in the High Commission, we have MITI office, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. We also have here what we call Malaysia Investment Development Authority, agencies that promote investment into Malaysia. So High Commission of Malaysia in Singapore can be considered as a one-stop center for anybody that would like to do businesses in Malaysia and so on and so forth. This can be their first starting point. But at the same time, we have information over the internet and so on and so forth. They can also check and so on and so forth. So we continue to organize trade mission, for example. We do seminars to talk about potential investment in Malaysia, opportunities in Malaysia, and so on and so forth. We'll continue to do this. So I hope potential investor can always reach out to us, ask any question that they want, and we can also tailor-make some, custom-made some incentive package for potential investor that would like to come to Malaysia.
And obviously, Singapore and Malaysia will share a similar way of doing business as well. Now, one last question, sir. Which are your favorite homegrown brands which feature in Singapore and why? And do you foresee other brands arriving?
I mean, there are a number of Malaysian brands here, but since I'm always, try to look for food, interesting food and so on and so forth, I think one of the interesting Malaysian brand that we have here is a chain of restaurant called Papa Rich. So they serve Malaysian cuisine, which include Malay dishes, Chinese dishes, and so on and so forth. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have about 5 outlets now in Singapore. But of course, there are always other brand that would like to come to Singapore. But Singapore has over the years becoming quite an expensive place to operate. So I think that cost factor has always been one of the main consideration for any company, especially that involved in retail and hospitality that would want to venture into Singapore. But I presume these are just logical, there will be cross border of exchanges of businesses. There are some Singaporean companies operating in opening their branches in Malaysia. Likewise, there will be more and more Malaysian companies opening their branches here and so on. I think the latest edition is what they call hawker center in a shopping complex called Malaysia Boleh. So I think currently they have about two, one in Clementi and the other one I think in one of the shopping complex. So they have, hawker style, so various stalls which serve different food. So in the Clementi side, they also have a halal section where Malay or Muslim here in Malaysia can enjoy some of Malaysian food, including the from the Chinese community and so on.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
All right. Thank you.